Okay, let's get into it. We're going to talk Packers offense versus Rams defense. We'll talk about the other side of the ball in a video later in the week. But yeah, let's just get into it. This should be awesome because it's maybe the best defense in the league against maybe the best offense in the league. If you look at points per drive, which is my favorite stat, then the Packers have the best points per drive in the league at a ridiculous 3.22 points per drive. They average nearly half a touchdown per drive, which is just crazy. And the Rams, on the flip side, they have the best defensive points per drive. They only give up 1.48 points per drive, meaning they give up basically half a field goal per drive. So that's also insane on the other hand. So let's just get into it. And I want to start off with some plays from the New Orleans Saints because I think that that's probably the most comparable defense I could find just in terms of scheme. Really, the Rams play a defense that feels like it's unlike every other defense, so it's hard to really find a great scheme. And these two teams didn't play each other this year, so it's hard to really get too much of a gauge. But I think I can figure out some stuff. So, like on this play, it's going to be quarters coverage, and this is something the Rams do a decent amount, is play quarters, and this is a good quarters beater, where what they're going to do is they have two receivers running deep, one just going to run a deep curl route, basically to get the New Orleans Saint, who's furthest to Rodgers' left, to kind of come in a little bit, and then Lazard almost fakes as though he's going to go in that direction, but then go over the middle. And the reason why this can work is because since he's going to fake as though he's going to be running to the offense's left, you would think that, okay, that makes sense. Since there is that curl, typically teams will run this, but since Lazard is then going to run in the other direction, that could allow him to get open. Rodgers takes a snap right here, and as you can see, the defensive back is trying to make sure he doesn't get beat over the middle. That's what his main mindset is. Don't get beat over the middle. But when he sees Lazard running to the other direction, he's thinking, oh my God, my hips are turned in the wrong direction. I got to get over, and I got to try and make sure I do cover up all the way to Rodgers' left. But by the time he does that, then Lazard can finish his route. He then cuts over the middle. There's no one there, and he's able to pick up a huge gain, and they don't quite get the touchdown, but they get very close. And that's just route running deep over the field. And honestly, against quarters coverage, sometimes you can't get those big plays because there's so many people deep. You often just expect somebody else to be taking care of it when that doesn't always happen, which is why those things can work out. The Rams run a decent amount of zone, and the Packers are good against zone. So that's something that's interesting, I think, where what's going to happen is that it's going to be a cover 2 zone that the Bears are in right here. And this is a good concept where there's 3 routes. Tight end is running a deeper route. It's not just a straight up go route, but it's close enough. That made it look better on the graphics, so that's what I went with. You then have another receiver who's going to run a crossing route over the middle, and you have a check down with a halfback. And so the reason why these 3 things are so good is because obviously on any select portion of the field, there's only going to be 2 Chicago Bears, just if you're talking horizontally. So that's what you're trying to do right here, is you're trying to force one player to go somewhere, another player goes somewhere else, and then there's no one to cover the third Green Bay player in that area. Watch, Green Bay takes the snap, and you see, I mean, there is just, wide open, 83, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, he's just wide open right here because of the concept. So, you know, I'm not even talking about the talent yet, I'm simply just talking about X's and O's, and these X's and O's are really good, and it makes things easy for number 12, Aaron Rodgers, who I somehow haven't even mentioned yet. And that's just because, sometimes things are easy for him, and when they're difficult for him, he can still be incredible. Rodgers does make this throw, and they're able to get a big completion here. So, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of it is little stuff like that. Let's talk about talent for a second, because, X's and O's, fine. But talent wins football games, and you don't get to score 3.22 points per drive on, just sheer X's and O's. It comes down to talent, and not just with Rodgers. Like this one. So Rodgers wants to throw this ball to his left right here. This is a 3rd down and looks like about 8 yards. So that's what they're dealing with right here. And so obviously the concept to his left is what he really wants to make happen. But the issue is there is going to be immediate pressure. He does have a check down to his right, so that's where he's going to go. Watch. Rodgers takes a snap, and as you see, he just takes the check down to his right because he has to. And Chicago's doing a good job of getting in position right here. They should be able to make this tackle. So, it was kind of what you should have done for Green Bay because, hey, It could get you closer into field goal range. You probably wouldn't take a field goal that long, though. So maybe you could go for it on 4th down if it's like a 4th and 2. And of course, there is always the possibility of Aaron Jones breaking tackles. And in fact, that's what's going to happen. Watch. Jones is able to not only break 1 tackle, but break 2 to get the 1st down. I mean, that's just an incredible play. That's ridiculous. But also, that's kind of what makes this Packers offense so great. Matt LaFleur, who should maybe be coach of the year. I don't see why not. I can't think of someone who I would say was better than him. It's weird, but I think that you could definitely make that argument. On top of this, even when plays go wrong, well, now you have Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, you have Davante Adams. You have guys who can just sort of make something out of nothing. So how do you beat Green Bay? Well, if you're playing zone, you be disciplined and you understand where you're supposed to be at all times. Like this play. It's a play that can absolutely work against zone coverage. You see that there's 2 routes that are going in a single zone. And the player who's in charge of covering that zone for Chicago, he could go further deep. He could instead try to take away the crossing route, which then creates something open further deep. So there's ways that this can work out. Really, the most common would be he steps too far deep and allows a player to be open right in front of him. But watch how Rodgers takes the snap. He does look in that direction, but Chicago's doing a good job at both just passing off the Green Bay defender who's running further deep, and they realize, hey, just cover our assignment right here. That's fine. We don't have to freak out here. Sometimes you should abandon your assignment, but it's about knowing when you should or shouldn't. This time they shouldn't, and so they're doing a good job of passing off a Green Bay receiver to Eddie Jackson, who's behind them, and they can just still cover where they're supposed to cover. Now, if another Green Bay player ran deep as well, then one of them should stay deep. So, there's rules in these type of coverages, but that's what they're doing. They know what they're doing here. Rodgers then tries to scramble since it's not open, eventually gets sacked. So that's what you can do to try and counteract Green Bay, and that is what the Rams do really well. So that's why I'm interested in seeing how this works, because Green Bay loves to attack zone, but the Rams are really good at the defending zone, and we'll get more into that in a second. Let's show another play. So this one, we're going to now talk about the Carolina game, because I think this is an interesting play to talk about. It's going to be zone coverage that Green Bay is in, or Green Bay is playing against, that Carolina is in. And you have 3 Green Bay players who are all running routes over the middle. And basically the way this works is you get a Carolina player out of position. A linebacker or defensive back in the middle of the area could then try to run further towards their right, which would be the offense's left, taking away a route, and that can leave someone else open if they get passed off. So communication is key here for Carolina. They have to know what they're doing, and they have to make sure they do it well. Rodgers takes a snap, and the Carolina players all pass off these receivers really nicely. Now, the one in the flat to Rodgers' right, that's Robert Tonyan's. That's probably who Rodgers should have thrown to, but also Davante Adams is kind of open. But that's what you try to do. You just try to get guys kind of open instead of wide open. If they have a perfect play call against the concept that you're in, just try and not allow them to be wide open. Make them kind of open, because then you can potentially make a play. Adams nearly had it, but it was a hard hit, and they were able to knock the ball away. Adams was not able to hold on. And that's just kind of what you can do is, if you get these situations where Rodgers is trying to, throw fastballs in there, well, you can at least try and knock the ball away. You have that opportunity, which you wouldn't have had if you screwed something up. But again, easier said than done to not screw something up. One last thing to talk about, Green Bay has at times struggled against man. I mean, they don't struggle against anything, but comparatively speaking to what they can do against zone, they have had their moments. I think last year it was pretty much every team's strategy to play man coverage, double team Davante Adams, and just, hope everyone else can win their one-on-one matchups. But one of the very small things Green Bay's done a lot more of is just run, pick plays. I mean, those things can work out really easily and really well. Watch how this pick play does work out. Lazard is the one who gets open. Rodgers makes the throw. They pick up a big chunk play on that one. He tries to hurdle someone. Also, we got to talk about these guys trying to hurdle other players who are standing up. I mean, I don't know how high you think you can jump. That's not going to work. But, it's one of those things where it's a good play concept. Really, the refs don't throw the flag on those types of things, and that one shouldn't have been a flag, but they don't really throw the flag on those types of things, even when they should be sometimes, unless it's against Baltimore in the playoffs. But I think that those things can work out, and it's a really good way to beat man coverage, and it gets teams out of man coverage. So let's start comparing and contrasting this Rams defense to the Packers offense. I know I've talked a lot about the Packers offense. I'm going to get more into the Rams defense, I swear. But this one's a great example, and it'll be a great segue where it's just going to be a quick screen to Aaron Jones, who's running in that direction, and you have two blockers in front. This is simple, but it's something that Green Bay likes to do, and it can be a good way to gain yards. Watch, Rodgers takes a snap, he makes this quick throw, and they do, in fact, get a decent gain on that one. They get the first down, get a decent gain after the fact. Pretty good play by Aaron Jones and by the Packers offense. This is something they like to do. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because the Rams are maybe the best team at defending these wide receiver screens. And I know that was to a halfback, but it was the same idea, a halfback lined up as a wide receiver. Watch, let's start off with this one. We all remember this one. It's a very similar play. This time there's a back in the backfield, but Metcalf is in motion to the top of the screen. He's the one you're going to throw to. So now you have this numbers advantage just like Green Bay did, where you can simply throw it to Metcalf. Both Seattle players go out to block. But really what it's going to come down to is Darius Williams is going to make an incredible read, a very aggressive play, and it's going to be one of the best plays you'll see all year. Watch him break and step in front of Metcalf, get the interception on the move, so he's going to get a pick six. That's incredible. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that every time you try to throw a screen pass, it's going to result in a pick six. But I do think that when you throw these wide receiver screens, the Rams are going to be good at it. They're not going to give you as many yards as these other teams will. They'll make quick tackles. They're aggressive players, physical players. I showed this play about Darius Williams. I could probably show a dozen about Jalen Ramsey doing similar things, not getting pick sixes, but blowing the plays up. Speaking of blowing plays up, let's talk about Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald, he just completely takes over games sometimes. And the reality is, if you get a sack in a game, that's just a huge swing because it can kill a drive. I mean, I talk about it all the time, but the difference between a first down and 10 and a second and 16 is huge. Most second and 16s don't result in picking up the first down. Now, Green Bay will be better at most at picking up those first downs even after a sack, but it's still going to be tough. And if Aaron Donald can get one-on-one matchups, which the Rams do a good job at giving him one-on-one matchups, what they're doing here is they have three LA players who are rushing the passer, who are all to the right of the center, to the center's right. So this now means that pretty much you're stuck with having your right guard try and one-on-one block Donald. The only other thing you could really do would be just have a tight end come in and he could just one-on-one block Leonard Floyd, but you don't want to do that because Leonard Floyd's really good, and you don't want to have a tight end one-on-one blocking him, so you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, unless you just bring in an extra offensive lineman. Watch Donald. He's going to win his one-on-one matchup really easily. That's what he does. He's Aaron Donald. He's amazing. And I just think that no matter what you do, no matter how much attention you put on him, they'll find ways to give him one-on-one matchups. And quite frankly, he'll thrive against one-on-one matchups, and he'll thrive against double teams or triple teams. He'll still find his way to the quarterback, and you're just going to have to live with it. Green Bay's line has been great all year, albeit banged up. But, I still think that Donald is going to find a way to do something. It's possible they'll be able to shut him down, but highly unlikely, and you can't bank on it if you're Green Bay. You have to have the expectation of, let's have some plays that are good at picking up, 12 yards, because we might need some of those in this game. I also think their run defense is just incredible, and it'll come in handy against a team like Green Bay, who obviously they do run the ball. They run the ball well, but the Rams defend run well, which is why this matchup is so intriguing for me, where there's so much good football on both sides of the ball. In my opinion, not even in my opinion, it's just a fact that this will be the biggest matchup just in terms of one side of the ball. The Packers offense is scored best in the league, the Rams defense best in the league. So, this should be awesome. But watch this play. You're going to see a flash block on 45 right there. I looked up his name. I'm not going to be able to pronounce that. I'm just not. We'll call him 45. He's had about 150 snaps this year. Not a huge player, but a role player and plays his role well, which is what a lot of these Rams defenders do, is even if they're not stars, they do their role well, and that's nice because I do feel like they have depth, especially with that front seven, even if it's not necessarily a ton of huge names. They definitely have a couple, but it's not a ton. But watch, you see this flash block right here, and this should work. I mean, he's going to try and cut him a little bit right here, but usually these things work. However, the Rams, they just find a way. It seems like every play, someone is able to get through someone else's block. Like, they just have an incredible way of doing that. They shed blocks so well in the running game. As you see, he sidesteps, makes a quick tackle. Just a great play. And I always feel like when I make these breakdowns, the worse player I make a breakdown, I include in a breakdown about a certain play, the better that team typically is. Because I could have easily found an Aaron Donald, run defending highlight. But when you find a role player who's making these star plays, it really just shows that this is just a talented team full of guys who can make plays. Now, there is a way to beat them, not a big way to beat them, but I thought Seattle exposed a little bit of something in the playoff game against them, where it's actually a lot of what I talked about, beating them over the top, which the Packers, that's what they like to do. And in this certain play, Metcalf is going to be the guy trying to do that. Ramsey is lined up against him, but it's quarters coverage. So again, cover deep, but like I've talked about before, against quarters coverage, sometimes defenders aren't really too concerned about getting beat deep because they say, hey, I have 3 teammates covering deep, so I don't have to worry that much about it. I can play a little bit more aggressive here. So Wilson takes a snap. Ramsey's kind of sitting on maybe a slant route or something, or out route, just something that he could maybe jump, get an interception. But because of sort of the hesitation, now DK Metcalf has a step on him, which is not great. And it's especially not great because look at who else is in that box right there. That's John Johnson, who, he's having an incredible season for sure. But he just doesn't pick this up right here. He didn't pick up that Metcalf was running deep, which, it happens. But that's kind of how you have to beat this Rams defense. And I almost think that for Green Bay, watching this play, they're probably going to be annoyed that this play happened. Because, yes, on one hand, you know that you can beat them this way, but on the other hand, the Rams are going to think, man, we got beat. We got to make sure we don't let this happen against Green Bay, a team who can do this. And LA actually got beat a couple times. On the big DK Metcalf touchdown, it was something similar, although more improvised. This one was more intentional from Seattle. Now, Wilson overthrows this one anyways. He was under pressure, so that's why. And that's also a big factor for the Rams, is if the way to beat them is by having long developing plays, they're in pretty good shape given that they have Aaron Donald. So, pressure is going to come quickly. You can't really get these long developing plays. So that's the advantage for the Rams. I think this should be just an incredible matchup, and it's one of the real difficult ones to pick how well this is going to go. I could see this, I could honestly see this going either way. I think this game will have a bit more possessions. I think we'll be looking at 12 possessions, and I'm going to give Green Bay 27 points. That feels pretty good because I think, again, 12 possessions, a bit on the high side, and 27 points is, a bit on the high side. So I think great offense versus great defense will equal, solid score. Will that be enough? Well, you'll have to tune in and watch the second half of this video where we talk about kind of the not as good. I think both teams are clearly, the Rams are a defensive-minded team, Green Bay is an offensive-minded team, but who knows? This game could come down to the other side of the ball. Sometimes that does happen when there's matchups like this. So, feel free to check that one out, subscribe so you don't miss it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.